Hey guys, so here is my Talon 250. It is very small at 620mm wingspan, and the all-up weight on my setup is just 290 grams. We're going to take a quick look at this on the bench, and then we're going to go and look at some flight footage from the Maiden, where it was also chasing its big brother, the Talon Pro. For my FPV camera, I have the Runcam Hybrid up front. This is a 2-in-1 camera which also records in HD, which is really useful for planes of this size. For control, I'm using a Crossfire Nano, and that is connected to a Immortal T antenna. And what I've done is I've just poked it in the bottom of the fuselage there and glued it in place, and this allows the lid to go on perfectly around the top half of the antenna. My GPS receiver is the small 220 kind, which is glued to the underside of the main wing. The flight controller is this really small Maiden F411 WSE, and it's running iNav 2.6.1. I cut a small hatch out the side of the plane to mount the 5.8 GHz VTX in direct airflow. The power level is switchable up to 800 milliwatts, and then using the supplied pigtail I've mounted the Foxeer Lollipop antenna to the top. This VTX also has TBS Smart Audio, so in iNav I have it configured to run low power until the plane is first armed. I am using the PNP kit, and that comes with the ZOHD 30A ESC, which is tiny. Here is a micro SD on top of it just for scale. The motor it comes with is a Sunny Sky 1406 2600 kV, and it comes with two props, a 3-blade for 3S and a 2-blade for 2S. And here it is ready to fly. I'm going to be using a 1500 mAh 3S LiPo, and what I'll do is I'll put a link to all of the parts I've used and this plane in the video description below. So here we are in the field ready for the Maiden. To my surprise, I'd heard of a couple of people having troubles launching this thing, so I just thought, why not just get my friend to throw this while he's there in the field with me. We went for full manual mode, and I haven't got the DVR recording because I forgot to hit record, but here it is in HD. As you can see, it went pretty smoothly, no issues there whatsoever. And then just for fun, I decided why not give auto launch a go on the second flight, and here's how that went. Straight out with no problems at all. At this point, I'll just let you watch a bit of footage from the maiden and second flight of this plane, and then I'll come back towards the end of the video and have a bit more of a chat about it. Well, I have to admit I am pleasantly surprised with how this flies for a 250 gram style model. To me it does feel more stable than the Dart 250, but then again I would kind of expect that with a model that has a tail. This was a fairly calm evening, but just over the top of the hill where I fly, the air can be a little bit turbulent, and you'll have noticed that the plane was wiggling around a fair bit, especially in comparison to the Talon Pro. And obviously a plane like this size and weight is never going to be as stable as a Talon Pro in this kind of wind. Although once you reach an altitude of around 120 meters like I am here, you can see it's really nice and stable and cruising along nice and calmly. Some of you might have noticed I had a couple of issues with the flight controller on this Maiden. The more obvious one was the ESC noise in the video feed on the higher throttle, and the second one was the amp draw was not reading correctly. It seems like the shunt resistor for the current sensor can't accurately read lower amp draw. It struggles on the lower end, but at the higher end it actually was quite accurate. So you would have seen I was pulling around 7 amps on a climb, which according to a watt meter is correct because it was pulling 7.5 on the bench. But it's in the lower range that it struggles to accurately get a reading. So we know that it pulls 7 amps on a full throttle climb, and I would estimate that cruising would be somewhere between 1 and 2 amps. Darren Lines, who also goes by the name of Mr. D Falling With Style, has a really useful tool for calibrating the current sensor if you're getting inaccurate readings. So what I've done is I have used his tool to come up with a new current sensor scale, just to see if I can make this a little more accurate. I'll put a link to this tool in my video description below. To use this tool, you enter the scale you're using at the moment in the top field, and then on the bench you're going to do some tests at different throttle levels. And at each throttle level you need to take a reading from the OSD or the flight controller, and also from a power meter. You can see here these are my actual results, so you can see the difference between the flight controller reading and what my watt meter was saying. I'm using this Toolkit RC watt meter, which is pretty cheap and very accurate. Well worth having. I'll put a link to that in my video description below as well. So once you put all these figures in, it then gives you that new current sensor scale, and you just need to go into iNav and replace the one you currently have. Okay, and back to the other issue, which was the noise in the video feed, which was caused by the ESC. As soon as I cut the throttle, this would go away. So I have added a cap to the ESC pads and a small inductor ring on the VTX cable. And since doing this, this on the bench has completely fixed the issue. I haven't been out to flight again, but I expect that I should have a clean video feed on my next flight. This clip here is entirely at 0 throttle. Someone said that apparently this plane just stops instantly and falls out of the sky like a brick when you cut the throttle, so I thought I'd just include this clip and you can make your own mind up. I also got asked how stable this thing is when it reaches higher speed. So in this dive here it reached 128 km per hour, and to me it seemed pretty stable, especially for its size. I wanted to keep this video nice and short, so I'm going to end with a quick summary here. So I do think this is a pretty cool little plane. It is a lot more stable than I expected it to be, considering its size and weight. It's pretty cool that on 3S it's reaching speeds of up to 100 km per hour, and that's on the stock P&P gear. It's really easy to assemble. Out of the box you basically have to glue the 2 tail pieces in, and then you use a thumb screw to attach the main wing, and that's basically the airframe built. It also has a nice feature like we've seen in the AR Pro wing, where they have installed carbon fibre rods into the control surfaces, but they've also been threaded through the control horns to give them some extra strength. So a couple of things to note on this model, the first one being that the foam feels really soft and light, which is good obviously for keeping the weight of the model down, and I can see why ZOHD would design it that way. But I'm just not too sure how well it would fare in a crash, although the model is super light so it might get away with it. The other thing is that although this is quite stable for a 250 model, I don't think that I would personally enjoy flying this in any sort of wind. On this day it was around 5 miles per hour, and you can see how much it's getting knocked about in the lower turbulent areas. So for me, I would keep it to those calm days only. I like to try and keep my videos as short as I can without going into too much detail, so if there's anything I've missed that you'd like to know about this plane, please let me know by dropping a comment below and I'll get back to you. Thanks for watching.